We welcome you to New York City, where a live look on the AFA channel will give you a shot right up Fifth Avenue, just outside the AFA Today broadcast windows. And we are grateful that you're with us. Kevin McCullough welcoming you into the Wednesday edition of AFA Today. It's been a busy week so far. And I'm really quite disturbed by something that's going on in our nation's capital right now. In fact, our very good friend, the morning host here on AFR Talk, Sandy Rios, sent a notice to the AFA Today studios earlier today saying that the little bit of drama that we had in the nation's capital from yesterday's shutdown of the U.S. government is continuing. And what drama is she referring to specifically? Well, it has to do with this idea that a certain group of veterans who served at a certain time in our history are now not allowed to essentially visit what is in essence a normally unsecured memorial. If you've ever been to Washington, D.C. and seen the World War II memorial, you know that it is it's right there off the mall, like many of the other ones are, the Lincoln Memorial, et cetera, et cetera. But when you go to it, you know that there's big, wide open spaces that connect to it. You know, it's really easy to just walk up to and start looking at the different things. And of course, everything's made out of marble and really durable metals, so that when the rain comes and so forth, it's not going to destroy it. That's why it's a memorial. And what is disturbing about this is that here you have World War II veterans that are in the nation's capital, not because they're there to protest the shutdown. They're there because they wanted to go see the memorial. But they're there in Washington, D.C., They served our country in World War II. We spent millions of dollars to construct this memorial to the greatest generation, and now they are being told that they cannot be there. We have these reports that it's the Obama White House specifically that is saying about the memorial that we know that the veterans want to visit it. We're not going to let them. The White House and the Department of Interior rejected a request from Congressman Stephen Palazzo's office to allow World War II veterans to visit the World War II Memorial in Washington. The Mississippi Republican told the Daily Caller yesterday, Palazzo helped veterans commit an act of civil disobedience against the Park Service yesterday when the heroes stormed through the barricades around the closed memorial. The veterans were visiting the memorial as part of an honor flight, a nonprofit that provides veterans free transport to the nation's capital to visit the memorials to the wars they fought in. Because that's so unreasonable, right? These men were willing to give the greatest sacrifice that can be given for their country, their life. They went and saw many of their friends and colleagues do so and returned home. And after all of these years, it was much longer coming for their memorial than it is for most wars. We had the Vietnam Memorial up before then. We've had other memorials up faster. But the World War II Memorial was very slow in coming. And when it finally came, it's a beautiful memorial. It's one of my favorite memorials in Washington, D.C. But we now have specifically the White House saying, no, we're specifically not going to allow them to come. Now, the reason it was so easy for the World War II veterans to get around the barricades yesterday is because literally there's nothing to the barricades. You move a couple of sawhorses and you're in. That's it. It's not like, some tightly controlled, you got to have a ticket or there's some, specified entrance you got to go to get in. Here's my question, though, friend, and this is really, really bothersome to me. As I have two now deceased grandfathers that both served our nation in the Navy, in the big war, World War II. Why is it of any good to anyone for the president to shut down access to the World War II Memorial? Let's just assume the worst case. He wants to make some sort of political statement. He wants to have some sort of technical advantage in the arguments about the shutdown. What is his rationale for keeping World War II veterans from walking through a memorial that's mostly unguarded the rest of the time. A few years ago, I was doing some consulting work for our good friends at the Family Research Council. And I would leave the New York area at 3:30 in the morning on Monday, drive down. I would make it in time to meet with Tony Perkins at 7:30 and the rest of the media staff and the editorial group at 7:30. We'd have our meeting. I'd go work, for 4 days, and I had a little apartment there, and I'd stay there. And then at the end of the workday on Thursday, I would drive back to New York and reunite with my family. But it was not ideal, but it was something that we needed to do. FRC wanted my help for a period of time. I was very glad to do it. Love the nation's capital, love being there. I remember on more than one occasion being out far after dark and being able to walk right up and right through the World War II Memorial. I don't think I've ever seen a security guard at the World War II Memorial. My point being this meant that what the president intended to do was to create barriers where none normally exist to prove a point about the shutdown that's not even a legitimate point about the shutdown, to purposefully hurt World War II veterans by preventing them from being able to see the memorial that was built far too late in their honor. What human advantage can that possibly be to the president's argument on the government shutdown? If that's what this was, what could he possibly argue and say, oh, look at how those mean GOPers are shutting down the government? Well, first of all, it takes two sides to do what's going on. But what possible good? There's no resources being spent at the World War II Memorial. A light bill? I'm pretty sure they're not turning lights off in Washington, D.C. during the shutdown. Pretty sure that's part of the continuing spending that's going on. They're going to leave the electricity on the memorials. Honest to goodness, this is the way you have a mature discussion about Obamacare, about the waste in Obamacare, about the fact that millions of people tried to get on yesterday, and in 32 states, the vast majority of them couldn't. Punishing the World War II veterans, that solves the problem? I don't understand what he's thinking. I don't understand how he gets to advance his argument. If that's the raw strategy of how insightful he is as a politician, he stinks as a politician. How do you go after and hurt the people that have paid the biggest price of the ones that are alive currently to give us our freedoms? Intentionally, to them. Your reaction to this, 888-589-8840. I can't comprehend it. So Sandy Rios wrote the staff a little bit earlier at AFR, and she said, by the way, this controversy is just heating up. The president's preparing to send, what do they call the police that are on the horses? Here it is. Hold on. Yeah, mounted police. He's getting ready to send in mounted police. Now, who pays for them? I thought that the argument was you were shutting down the World War II Memorial because it was part of the shutdown and you couldn't afford money, but suddenly you got money to call in the mounted police. Suddenly you got money to do that, but you don't have money to allow people to walk through a free memorial that doesn't cost anything and there's no security access points to it to begin with. This is what she said, and Sandy's based right there in Washington. She said, Obama sending in mounted police and tractors, so big moving vehicles, to prevent veterans from being able to visit. I would suggest that you call your congressman, 202-224-3121. if this is the best argument the president can make as to why we should not defund Obamacare, I'm severely unimpressed with both his grasp of rational logic and common sense. I'm severely unimpressed. Now, here's another little winsome story. And this broke last night after I was off the air. I just couldn't believe. I posted it to the Kevin McCullough Facebook page. But CNN was reporting, and this is rich, that in the government shutdown, the congressional representatives, most of them, Ted Cruz is an exception. As a senator, he has said that he will donate all of the pay that he accumulates during the shutdown. He will donate that to charity. He's not going to keep a dime of any of this. And here's why he was kind of forced to say that. In an extended shutdown, most of the federal workforce goes without pay. This according to CNN. But the checks keep coming to the 533 current members of Congress. So they found out in the Constitution that Congress, and not their staff, not the lower paid minions that run their offices for them, they don't get paid. The congressmen get paid during a government shutdown. Friends, how much longer will it take before we deliver an upper left hook to D.C. and say enough's enough? You're there working for us. You are our employees. Thank you, Ted Cruz, for setting the example and saying, I'm not going to take a dime of that pay. I'm going to give it to charity, put it to work in places where feeds people who are hungry or whatever. Good for him. But for the rest of the scallywags that are in Washington, what's up? How do you justify that? 888-589-8840. So we're using mounted police that I don't know how we pay for, because evidently we're not supposed to have money to pay for stuff like this, right? Because the government shut down. But we're finding money to pay for the mounted police to come in and roll tractors in, big, long beds, try to keep people out of the World War II memorial because, heaven forbid, a few World War II veterans yesterday crashed the barricades. Sounds like the French Revolution or something. But they crashed the barricades and got in and saw the memorial that was built in the honor of the service that they gave. Unreal. Let's talk to Jim in South Carolina. Jim, you're up first with Kevin McCullough on AFA Today. Hi. Jim, are you there?
Yes, I am.
South Carolina. Hi. Yes, I can.
Yeah. If I drop out, it's because I'm traveling on the highway. So
no problem.
I think we have a classic case of a terribly spoiled brat that is not getting his way, and he's throwing a temper tantrum. And he better watch out, because some of these feisty old World War II veterans might assault the White House.
Well, I don't think that that's going to be the case, Jim. I don't think that any of these World War II, I think they have too much honor to do that, to be candid with you. But how do you make your point? By hurting the people that we honor most in this country. Kevin McCullough, glad to be with you on AFA Today. Your call's next.